Hi, and welcome to another Annenberg Media workshop. Today, we're going to talk about how to illustrate a story. Now, this is mostly for stories that are digital, appearing at uscannenbergmedia.com, but there are also some tips in here for finding a photo that you might show in a video or something else, social media, or to illustrate one of your audio segments that is appearing on the website. Please introduce yourself and tell us what you do here at Annenberg Media.
Hi all, my name is Yannick Peterons. I'm the photo desk editor here at Annenberg Media, and I will walk you through how to illustrate a story. So if we want to start with just being an arc and you'll look at your story, hopefully you already have some text in there.
I'll interrupt because what we're going to do, you will get trained on how to use what's called the content management system, and that's called ARC. It will look like this. You don't have to worry about it yet. We're going to get you logged in and trained on how to do it, but I'll walk through it as Yannick is talking. But this is where if you're in a story and you think, I would like to illustrate it, and now we're going to walk you through how you find a photo to be able to illustrate it.
Perfect. So before you start, you want to sort of think about this from what you're writing about. Are you writing about a person, let's say Carol Folt, a place like USC, or something like a thing like policy or technology? These will sort of guide your image searches. We have a couple of different ways that you can find images to illustrate, and knowing on what you're trying to illustrate will make your searches a lot easier. So when you're in ARC here, and we have see.
This is our photo center. So once you're set up, you will be able to search here. So why don't we say something about the Department of Public Safety? What would you search for?
Yeah, so maybe the easiest here is just searching for DPS, or you can always write it all out. Usually these things have metadata tied to it, so searching it is pretty easy beforehand.
And by metadata, you mean someone has entered in some details in this photo that somewhere say DPS, and that's why it's coming up?
Exactly. So a lot of this will be on the back end of what we do on the photo desk, where we will make sure that there is metadata tied to these photos that make them easier to search for when you're in ARC. So
you will see too that some things might not make sense. Like some things, this is obviously a protest. This is just a sign showing USC. I don't know who this person is. You could probably open it and find that out, but you want to be thoughtful in what is going to best illustrate your story. If someone saw this photo, for example, of the Jeep outside of a house, you might think it's about that particular house. So maybe you wouldn't choose that for something that's generally about the Department of Public Safety, right?
Exactly.
A sign could do.
And this also goes into what we were talking about before. If you're just talking about the public safety more generally, then again, the sign may do. But if you're talking about a specific incident, then the sign might not make as much sense as actually having a photo with DPS at that incident.
So let's look what's in here. So this actually does not have a caption at all. Doesn't need a caption. It is pretty clearly a photograph of a sign that says Department of Public Safety on it. One thing that we're going to teach you in CMS, there's a reason to have alt text. That's for people who might not have the ability to visually see something. So if you have this, people might have readers that will say a photo of a sign, right? That's a good idea if you're ever putting a photo in the system to think about how that works. But let's pick another picture that you'll see what kind of caption might appear on something. Maybe just this picture of someone catching a football, right? Is this one of your images?
This is not.
Okay.
Like sports.
So here, and I know we're getting off track, but if you don't mind, Yannick, talking about what is it that we see here with the caption?
So generally for captions, we want to follow just a specific style where you hear what's going on in the image in terms of if it's a person, we want to have the person, we want to have where it's at, and usually also want to have the date in there. Photographs from the athletics department, they sort of vary on how they have this approach, but for our purposes, you will also include the date. At the end of it, it's really important that you also credit the photographer. For all of our stuff, we won't write Annenberg Media at the end. It's a little bit redundant as long as the photos are still in-house. If you are outsourcing images from some of the things I'll talk about later from Creative Commons or say Upsplash, you will write the photographer and then where you got the images from.
So for example, if I took this picture, I would enter in this caption and I would spell the person's name correctly because this is part of the journalism. Everything must be correct in a story. This will appear under the photograph. And then it would say photo by Christina Bellantoni. But because I am part of Annenberg, in this case, I'm not actually part of Annenberg Media, but for this example, I wouldn't need to say /Annenberg Media. But if I were a parent of a USC student who submitted a photograph of their child or something, it would say photo by Christina Bellantoni. / wherever I worked or what my organization was for or something.
In those cases, you can also often just say courtesy of whoever submitted the image, but crediting where the images is coming from is really important in photojournalism, and you will basically see it everywhere. No one ever writes a caption and doesn't write where the photographer.
They shouldn't, yes. So if someone, let's say you go and you're searching for a photo and you don't find something you're looking for, maybe that's a building on campus. What would be, well, let's say it's not a building on campus. If you're looking for a certain people wearing masks or something, what would you recommend? What would be the good steps for someone to find a photo if it's not in our system already?
So we have two other resources for this. The really important part here is that these are free images on the internet that are usable for all purposes. We cannot just go to Google and search for an image and expect to use that image in the same way that you can't just go even to like Shutterstock or Getty that are sort of designated image archives. They have specific policies and often a paywall behind their images, and we can't just go and download them or screenshot them. We can use one of our sources is called Upsplash. A lot of their stuff is a little bit more sort of artsy. If you look at Shutterstock, they use a lot of their images from them. So you want to make sure that they're still sort of journalistically acceptable, if that's a good way to put it. You don't want these creamy sunsets in our images.
Yeah, something that's been doctored or anything like that. So let me just ask you a couple of questions because we want to keep this video short, but there are a few important pointers. So, you wouldn't take a photo in the same way you wouldn't plagiarize a story, right? You wouldn't just take something without crediting someone. We do have a contract to be able to use AP images. That's not something you're going to do when you're just writing a regular story. If you really need something, you're going to work with Yannick or someone else on the editing team to be able to find an AP image because we pay by the image for those, but it is something that will be available. And then the other part of this is if you took a photo yourself, there's a way to upload it, maybe just very quickly. I can try to do that and just show people the steps. So here on this page, I go to upload image. Is this right?
Yes.
What would I do next?
You want to go to your default image uploads. And then
select it off my desktop, just like anything else.
Exactly.
Okay. I have no idea what this is, so hopefully it's not going to be embarrassing. Let's see. Okay, it doesn't show preview, so this will be a real risk. This is kind of fun. Ta-da! Tells you how far along you are. Oh, okay, this is helpful. So this is our one of our trainings from the other day. These are our Annenberg Leadership Initiative Fellows, Adam, Shireen, and Alicia. So in this particular case, Yannick, would you recommend that I get the name of every single person in the photo, or would you only name people who are looking at the camera?
So in this case, I think writing the Annenberg Leadership Initiative meets for a training session on date would suffice for these purposes. Captions also don't need to be paragraphs long. A sentence or a sentence, maybe in a second sentence that gives some context. You can include that, but really one sentence and then with the photography creditorship at the end is plenty.
Right. Alan Middlestad is one of our professors. Many of you watching this probably know him. Does that work?
Perfect. And then
alt text, I might say something like a photograph taken on a college campus.
And then you want to hit save and return, which will then, when you're writing your story, you're uploading your text, you will be able to access the photo center and select that image and put it into your story.
Okay, great. So for example, we're not going to do this live. Oops. But here's this story about DPS that was written over the summer. This is a story, you're going to learn how to use this for the words part of our CMS. But once you have that down, there's this tab called featured media, and we've got an image there, but let's just say we didn't. What would I do here?
You'll want to go back and to choose for media type, choose an option, hit image and media key. Once again, just basic. And these are a little bit more technical stuff. So just sticking to image and basic is enough for our purposes.
Okay.
And then you will see it right there.
Okay, I'd click on it or select.
You'll see there's like minuses and pluses. As long as it has a minus over your image, it's enough to then click select.
Okay. And you don't have to size it or anything else, like it'll do that for you.
No, yeah. And then that's the image that will then be in your associated with your.
Okay. And all of these other things we don't need to worry about because it's already in our caption.
Yes. And then, as you can see, the caption that we wrote before is then imported over from Photo Center into ARC. So.
And if I hit save, it would change the photo on the story. But if you see there, a story still needs to be republished. Obviously, none of you are going to be working with like a live story to do this, but I am not going to update the story. So it will continue to have the correct DPS photo on it. I will go back and not save this. Are there any other pointers you would give to people just to keep in mind while they're putting images in their stories?
So
when in doubt, just ask, I'd say, right? They can find you through
sure.
these.
Yeah. The third option is, of course, coming to the photo desk. Here you have our Slack channel, or just reaching out to me is the easiest way to get photos in-house. One of my goals as the photo desk editor is to have every photo in Annenberg be done in-house. Of course, it's a lofty goal, but please reach out to us and we would love to, support your articles with our own imagery.
Great. Thanks so much, Yannick. And thanks to all of you for watching this. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thanks. I'm going to stop our recording and stop our sharing.